To the Conquest unboxing video. For this one, I was lucky enough that Parabellum sent me the Trinavarta. It's the Trinavarta, although it also does make the Sargreth. It does make both of them. So we are going to unbox this thing. The second part of that video you're going to see is once I actually put this thing together, and we're going to talk about ease of that and all of that. And then hopefully, maybe not for this one, but pretty quick because I have a tournament coming up. I might try to get it painted up to take it. I know tournaments aren't paint required, but I prefer to be painted for tournaments if I can. All right, so let's take a look at this thing. Now, the only difference between the front and the back is the back is just a bigger picture of him. What I will say, what's something that's different on this particular one that I don't believe I've noticed on any of the others is it's essentially like almost like a slip cover of this. So let's see if I can actually get into this. Not easily. So we might cut this and then I'll do that. Okay, I need to just like push it differently than I was working with. Okay. I know they've done this for, I think, some of the like Artisan series, but I haven't seen this otherwise. Or at least I haven't remembered seeing this otherwise. All right, so let's take a look at this guy. Okay, his base out of here. There we go. All right, so for two parts of this, I will say currently, at least before we start looking at this, rules-wise for the moment, things are always going to change, of course. Swords seems better than spells, although I just kind of the look of the one with spells more. He's just kind of like throwing his hands out and all. But both art look absolutely great. I do actually kind of like this one's art a little bit more like his natural head rather than the different coloration there. But that's what we have for the cards. All right, let's see how many sprues. I will say, before I dig into this, one thing I've been impressed with overall or surprised by is sometimes how few sprues or how few parts it feels like you need for these different kits. So like when I put together the Theocrator, when you actually go in the box, it didn't feel like there's enough. I do find that with sometimes where you're opposed to, say, GW kit, where you're going to look at it and there's like one of the big kits might be like 100 parts and stuff like that and all these little pieces. Their kits always do feel like they do make impressively large models out of what doesn't feel like that many pieces. So let's take a look at this one. This one is what? 4 sprues actually. That's because this one does have a lot of wings. It has like what? 2 sets of wings on each side. We see the 2 giant swords. It has what I'm going to be curious, and it's kind of hard to see from this. Maybe not. But I'm curious if it'll be able to magnetize its hands at all. I have to find out once I actually mess with it. Okay, we can see sort of the tail bit. We can see the front, essentially, tabard almost covering himself there. Just pure wings, pretty much just pure wings, and half of one of the heads. We have a whole bunch more wings. And then the top piece for one of them, and the talons for, or just the hands for the one that's just popping his hands out. I do see, so that's the connection. It does look pretty thin. However, it does look, I have to see exactly how it connects to the arm, but to look at that, I do actually have to put the arms together. So if you take a look, you can notice if these two halves, say, went together, you can see the little dip in the middle. And that's where the little ball joint of this sits. I'm curious. The hands, I think you could do easily if you wanted to actually magnetize it. I might give that a shot. Or at least I'll mess around with it a little bit. Because of that, you could put a pretty small magnet in and the hands would hold. You put a magnet into both, you'd be fine. With this, you could easily, if you wanted, when it looks like, for the moment when you put it together, you could easily just drill in, put a little bit of green stuff behind it, and kind of sit it right in there. My concern, or what I don't think would probably work, the swords are very long. That's going to make them really heavy. So I think that's the part where you probably would end up having a failing of this. But I am going to mess with it a little bit and kind of take a look. I haven't decided exactly which one I want to do it as. So a little bit of consideration there. But I might still give that a shot. See what I can do. We see his back. We can see all of his spots where it will connect to all of his wings there. big old flowing bits, and I think that is mostly, oh yeah, there's like 2 of these sprues are pretty much all wings, and another one is half wings. So, surprise, surprise, he's pretty much all wings. Yeah, so taking a look at it, back is the same. Actually, sorry, it's 6 wings. Oh, sorry, I just noticed. There we go. I have the camera further than normal because this box is huge. We actually see, my apologies, I thought it was 4 wings aside. It's actually 6 wings. And we can see the big difference is what? His face and those hands. And it does look like the swords are out, so maybe there's a way, but I'll have to kind of mess with that to judge. All right, so not that many pieces to actually put this bad boy together. I always do worry about the way they do some of these connections here, how nicely they fit together. Do they actually fit together strongly? Especially in this one, you're going to have to hopefully have, since he's essentially being held up by, I guess, you know, his flowing sort of robe type pieces. Okay. Sorry, I was looking at something else. They're what hold him up, so I'm hoping for nice strong connections there. Have to see when we actually put them together. And then you slap on all these wings and so on. We can see for this, they're just showing that it is 3, 4, 1, 2. So it does look like, yeah, it's the same set of arms. It would actually be better if it had 2 sets of arms, so you could actually do it easier. But yeah, it's just whether or not you put the hands in or whether or not you put the swords on. So I'm curious to see ability to do something like that. And we see the other difference is the head. That's it. But for that, obviously, just pick whichever one you like the most. Yeah, and they show even more wings you're putting together. So that's why most of this kit is actually wings. And then the big old piece onto the back, which depending on how you're painting it, would cover things up. But luckily, it does look like it's the last piece you can put on. You can see the nice little divot to put it in there. So you could put that separate, which is probably honestly my plan for painting this guy up. So when you see mine put together, you're not going to see that put on him yet. All right, so when you see the second part to this video, or the continuation of this, we're going to have this guy together and see. Although it'll probably be about a day or so after the other one, because it's a bit late in the night, and I don't know if I'm going to be putting this guy together. I was already sitting downstairs for a while. So I am very excited about this one. It does look great. I'll mention before we do that then, I say rules-wise, I think this thing, one or the other, and again, I think the close combat one's better, but hey, rules might change. I think this really opens up the air list. Before, you really didn't take, you know, the different Jin stuff because it just felt like you didn't quite have enough. You get a monster, or potentially one of each, or 2 of one. I personally love monsters, so I run a bunch. But I think now you have this. Now I think you have some viability of running a decent amount of air with something else mixed in. It's probably still fire for the moment, at least until we get the other units for sure. But now at least I feel that you can do that for sure. All right. The Trinavarta is together, and this thing is very, very big. So taking a look at this thing, it not too bad to put together. There were some spots a little tricky. Actually, I just had to move this wing where it was before. It was actually going through the middle of his hand, which I didn't like, which means I kind of have to do a little bit of extra gluing onto that because it essentially already been sealed. But I can work on that. One thing I didn't realize, because they've been poking me, there are blades. If you actually look at the picture, you can see them, but there's actually blades sticking out of the wings. Oop. Like that real fast. Yeah, if you take a look, you can see here, it's actually blades sticking out. So he's a little bit sharp. Be careful with that. Wings go together pretty good. You do have to, at least the middle ones, I had to hold for quite a while. They were a bit trickier because they kind of just, there's a little indent essentially that they go into. So that was a little bit harder. But the top and bottom actually have like, not exactly flat, but larger flattish pieces that they connect to, which is pretty good. Bottom's actually pretty sturdy. This piece is actually really nice and sturdy because there is an extra connection here. This one is essentially hanging out on its own. Doesn't look like it actually connects or anything like that. I haven't attached him to his base yet because I'm curious, is it going to be easier or more difficult once he's on his base to work with, like to get to his underside and all? I think it might be better not to have him on his base. We're going to have to see. Same thing for painting. I had some different plans, but I'm thinking now I might do the wings in a white some contrast highlights and kind of go that sort of route. I've done it before for other things, especially mixing different contrasts and letting, before one layer is dry, put the next layer down a little bit off of it so that we can kind of get a good blend. So I might be doing some of that. But like I said, yeah, it's the 6 wings. I did do the back piece separate. So that is currently not on. It goes onto him. Just let me grab it. There it is. Sorry. This is the separate back piece. So it just slots right into him. However, that then makes it harder to reach a lot of the back parts. So I want to keep that off. I'll paint this separate, then I'll attach it into him. For a bit of a size comparison, this particular Rakshasa, since I did him in essentially Tiger Scheme, I didn't want to put the fire on his back, because as soon as I put the fire on the back, then you can't actually see his back. But if his fire was on, the other one I have, it stands a little bit taller. This thing is, a full hand width higher. I know it's a top-down camera, so I'll just try to get a little bit of a perspective here. That's them currently at about the same position. So he is, easily 3+ inches taller than this guy. It's pretty big. Not the biggest. My Genyo no Yokai is still taller, but I mean, this guy, I will say, he gives it a decent run for its money in terms of height. This is a big model for sure. What I did, so I went back and forth trying to figure out what weapons to do and everything like that, and I couldn't decide. I don't know which one I want to do. You never know. So I just did one hand of each. So he's got his blade in his left hand, his outstretched arm in the other. This arm, so the hands are the separate pieces. This arm is bent at a bit of an angle. So I thought it might make more sense for the blade there, and the other one is outstretched using the hand. So I kind of thought that would be a better look for it in general. So I decided to do it that way. I'm happy with that. Now, if you're playing in some high worlds level thing, maybe people would care. But you know what? The tournaments I run, the tournaments I play and stuff like that, you bring what you like. You have the appropriate card. The card makes sure we know which one. My opponent will know which one. But this way, I feel better about calling him either when I feel like, depending on which one I want to be running. Like I said, for the moment at least, I would say the rules for Sabragath, or however you pronounce it, the swords one is better than Trinavarta. But I just like the Trinavarta a little bit more personally. For whatever reason, just it fits more my playstyle, my thought. So, all right, that is this big boy. Like I said, I think I said this in the video. I have a tournament, supposed to have it on Saturday, assuming one it's still happening and life hasn't gone too crazy on me. But I have a tournament this Saturday, so I was debating. Originally, I was going to bring my Yoroni to it, because why not? I got a Mahatsu and been painting her up. But I'm thinking now, since I have this guy, I might want to take this and just see if over the next few days I can get enough paint on it that I'm happy. I know tournaments aren't painting required, but I don't like bringing unpainted stuff. I at least would want some base coats on him. And I'm curious, depending on how I do him, how quickly I can get to it. There is a little bit of things I have to do. I will point this out. There is a little bit of an issue down here, obviously, where this goes together, not quite as smooth. So I do have to fill that in a little bit. Same thing actually on the back part of it here. Just got to do a little bit of filling in some of the bottom pieces and all. The body itself actually went together very smoothly. There's a little bit of gap on the arm. Might be a little bit hard to see, but if so, that's a fine thing. On the underside of the arm, this, with how many wings it is, this is really tough to kind of hold up. But the underside of his arm there's a little bit of a gap and all. So I'm probably just going to fill that in. Like I said, I have my plastic putty that I use. I'm going to fill that in, get him primed. And tomorrow, I think I'm going to, after work in the gym and all that kind of stuff, see what sort of paint I can get on this boy. I'm going to give it a couple hours. I'll give it a couple hours and see at what level do I think he is. Will he be entirely done by the weekend? Probably no. This week's a little bit busier than I'd like otherwise. But I think it's worth giving it a shot. So I did make a list with at least him. I didn't put the Marid in. I might still try to find it, but that, like I said, unfortunately right now, they're the only water thing really, so they don't really synergize well. But him, I like, and hey, I can use some other gin that I painted up. So, and I said, it's a small local tournament. I don't really care how it goes. I just want to play some stuff and get some games in. Did last week in terms of getting a few games in, so that's my only goal. All right, so that is the big bird. Once he's painted and all, I will show him off in some games we're going to do. But that is it for the moment. Keep in mind, if you want to get your own giant bird or anything else, we do have our discount code, String Kickers, saves you 10%, helps out the show. And that is it for now. You will see this guy in some battle reports coming up. I played a game versus Dan this week. I didn't do long form recording of it, but if he's starting to become more available, I'd like to start doing some more long form recording and see. Unfortunately, the game is just tough to cut down the bits, but I'd like to do that and try out some different styles and see what I can make work and everything like that for this. But that is the Trinavarta and all of his giant sharp, and I literally do mean sharp. I've poked myself on the ends of these multiple times now in all sharp glory. All right, well, on behalf of everyone at the show then, has a good hobbying and some great gaming.